Hi, I'm Jim Gordon.
And I'm Lita Leapin.
And welcome to another edition of Our City Tonight.
Well, we're here in North Vancouver at the Shipyards District. Really great place. Even in the wintertime, there's so much to do here. In fact, there's ice skating.
That's right. Lots of great restaurants, including the one inside the Seaside Hotel. Lita, you'll be going inside to Seaside Provisions to do what?
To check out some of their great fare inside.
It's the sister restaurant to Hydra. She'll be going inside. I'll head back downtown, and you'll see me later in the show.
Well, now I'm inside Seaside Hotel, but right inside Seaside Provisions, and I'm joined by our good friend Vadim, who is now the general manager here. But you're not new to this whole group of restaurants because you've been with them over 6 years. So
Yes,
welcome and congratulations on the new position.
Thank you so much. Super excited. I'm looking forward to lead this restaurant to the new highs.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a beautiful, powerful road.
Oh, completely. It already has. You guys have done such a good job. And we're here to talk about cocktails today because it's Valentine's month. But
It is, yeah.
let's start with this beautiful pink one in front of us.
Well, this is our brand new creation. Of course, it's going to be available after the Valentine's, so people
Good.
can enjoy if they love it from the first sight. It's going to be awesome. It's made with Botanist gin, superb product, more of a top shelf high-end gin mixed with a little bit of fresh citrus. You're gonna have some muddled fresh raspberries and a touch of freshly cracked egg whites, vigorously shaken and presented in a beautiful martini glass for you. Both men and women can enjoy this so that they can have a great time.
Oh, I love sour, so I can't wait to try that. But let's talk about the Blue Sea, which is what a beautiful name for a drink, too.
Thank you. Well, of course, we got to stay true to our concept. We are a seaside hotel and restaurant. We want to play off of that. So we have a delicious tequila cocktail. This one's going to have a little bit of blue curacao to give it that ocean look and feel to it. It's shaken with a little bit of pineapple juice. You're going to have a touch of fresh passion fruit puree and a little bit of sweetness to balance out all the acidities. Shaken, presented in a sifter with a nice fresh passion fruit. So you can have a little bit of a tart dessert afterwards.
Wonderful. And what's Valentine's without oysters?
Oh,
and
definitely.
you guys absolutely excel at oysters. And you also have the bakashak.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what kind of oysters you offer.
We're offering a variety of oysters, of course, from premium oysters to bakashak oysters. Bakashak oysters are just as delicious.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, they come fresh from Denman Island or from Buckley Bay. They arrive 5 days a week. So definitely it's from the ocean to the customer. We're also utilizing a little bit of sturgeon caviar if you want to turn it up a notch and elevate your experience here.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Vadim. And we're going to go back downtown to see what Jim is up to down in Vancouver.
Could have met on a sandy beach at sunset. You could have seen me playing piano in the hotel bar.
He's an award-winning songwriter, producer, recording artist. He has won a Grammy. He has won a Juno. That's a big award in our country, working with Bryan Adams and Ivor Novello. He's been nominated for a Golden Globe, a Critics' Choice. Continuing with our music spotlight around the world, it is a great pleasure to welcome England's own, although he's in New York. Elliot Kennedy joins us right now from New York. Elliot, welcome to Our City Tonight.
Thank you, Joe. It's great to be with you.
Great to have you, sir. Hey, I got to ask you right off the bat. As I said, you make your home in Sheffield, where you have Steelworks Studio, but you're in New York right now because you are preparing a new Broadway play. Am I right about that?
That's right. This will be my second musical set to go to Broadway. My first was a musical called Finding Neverland. And this is something we've been writing for just over 2 years, called Empire State Dreams, which is kind of based on, do you know that iconic photograph of the guys eating lunch high above New York?
Yes, yes.
it's kind of it's a musical about that photograph. It's about the immigrants that built New York and a celebration of diversity, and it's great. We're loving life and having a great time. We've got a great director, great producer. So we've just been here for the last 3 days, sort of getting in the reeds of it and then making the changes and part of the process, but we're having a great time.
I love that photo because it's back in the day when, attaching yourself to the beam? No. You're just sitting on the beam high up eating your lunch. It's a great shot. Elliot, you first came onto my radar, boy, time flies, over 25 years ago when you were the guy responsible for the always important second single follow-up to Wannabe by the Spice Girls. You wrote Say You'll Be There, which I've been humming again all day since I knew I was going to be talking to you. But what I love is you were there at the beginning with this worldwide phenomenon where the young ladies show up in Sheffield at your place, and all of a sudden you have adopted 5 sisters.
It was literally like that. We had set a date to work together, and what I didn't realize is in the interim, they had decided to fire their manager. And because he wouldn't give them my phone number, they just drove to Sheffield, which is 160 miles north of where they were in London, and descended on my doorstep and said, we're desperate to work with you, but we haven't got anywhere to stay. So literally, I adopted 5 sisters, which anyone with sisters will know is not an easy thing to do. But do you know what? They were incredible, and their energy was amazing. It was literally like, having 5 hurricanes move into your house, but it was also so inspiring. We got so much done. We had a ball, and I'd got a little studio in my house, and we just did everything there, wrote songs, made records, and still have amazing memories from that time. So yeah, it's a crazy story, but yeah, it was something. All of a sudden having 5 young girls move into your house. I lived on my own, thank goodness, because I don't know if my partner would have been able to deal with it.
It's a great tribute to the work you've done when you talk about the diversification of the artists. As I mentioned, Spice Girls. You won a Juno, our country's music award, working with Bryan Adams on the song When You're Gone, which was a massive hit around the world. But you've worked with, Spice Girls, Bryan Adams, Celine Dion, Lulu. To go from Spice Girls, and you also work with Shirley Bassey. That must be a real joy for you to work with such a diversification of talented artists.
You know what? When I started my career, it was my intention to not repeat myself too much, to not be pigeonholed as a guy that does this. So I always saw my job as a songwriter was to get in the heart and mind of the artist that was going to be singing the song. That my job was not to sound like me, but rather sound like them. So it's a challenge because you have to sort of remove any ego or anything that you think is how you want it to go, and really try to get into their vocabulary and make it feel like what they're saying is from their heart. And that's the challenge of a songwriter. And it was always my intention. And the thing I'm most happy about looking back on my career is that all of those artists are quite diverse, from Spice Girls to Celine Dion, in the same year, and it not sound like each other. Through the 90s, I did a lot of girl bands, pop and boy bands and things like that, because that was what was happening. But I'm pleased that none of them kind of sounded the same. That was my biggest thing, and it only comes from having this lifelong love affair with music and trying to sort of fall in love with as many styles of music as possible, and that's helped me be able to do that, to be able to sort of move from sound to sound without it sounding the same all the time.
I've got a few seconds left, Elliot. One of the things I wanted to mention, you released a Christmas single in late November called This Christmas. By the way, if they were doing Love Actually 20 years later, this song would be in it. But I wanted to mention, in all seriousness, that you wrote this song because, and it's not unique to your country, but you were just fed up with the fact that so many of your countrymen and women have the option of, or the choice between paying their heating bill and getting food, and you wanted to make this song to help those people out. A few seconds left, actually. Tell us about This Christmas, the single.
So it was exactly that. You wake up and you read the newspapers, and you're hearing that families that are just like everyone else's families. We're all the same, and they're struggling to do the most basic things like feed their kids or keep them warm. as a songwriter, we can only change the world one song at a time. So I just thought if I could use my contacts, I can use, whatever I can do we'll write a song, we'll make some noise, we'll start a charity event, we'll do whatever we can. Not just necessarily about the money, but just about the message, about letting people know that people like you are out there and they're really struggling. And if you can donate, please donate. I chose a great charity, National Energy Action, and they don't only help people with money, but they actually send caseworkers in to help people manage their finances better and get more out of their finances. So it's a great charity. And it was great, and we did really well with it, and we got a lot of radio and a lot of support. I had wonderful social media support. So it was a nice thing to do, but listen, like I say, as a songwriter, all we can do is do what we do when we fall out of bed, and that's write songs and make records.
Well, you do that very well, sir, and I should say you certainly kick ass on stage yourself as a performer. Elliot, thank you for joining us. I know you got a hectic schedule in New York. Appreciate you joining us and telling us a little more about yourself. I also want to thank Nick and Whitney, your PR people, who really do a great job of making this all happen. Safe travels, sir.
Jim, I appreciate everything.
Thank you. We should say ice hockey fan, folks. I wanted to talk British soccer, but he said, no, he's an ice hockey fan. Thank you, Elliot. Best of luck on Broadway.
Take care, guys.
Cheers.
Christmas, I still love you. This Christmas.
This segment is sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
She's an award-winning voiceover actress. She has toured the country as a singer, stand-up. She's done one-woman shows, and she has a new book out that I got to tell you, folks, is quite unique. It is called Surviving the Odd. Coming to us from Los Angeles, we'd like to welcome Candy Milo to our city tonight. Candy, thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I got to tell you, you're quite welcome. This is quite a read. I've interviewed a lot of authors about biographies over the years, and I want you to get right in and explain this. But this book is unlike anything I've ever read, because your childhood, I think you say this in the book, was Brady Bunch meets One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You pick it up from there at 1968, and your dad retiring reluctantly from show business, and he does what?
He opens one of California's very first homes for the mentally disabled, developmentally disabled, and emotionally disturbed. And because he came from the show business world, he was a comic with 5 kids, not a lot of spare money. So we, for the first year and a half, lived in the house with the residents. We eventually moved next door and then further away, but probably from the time I was 8 years old on, that was my life.
It's so interesting because, and we talked earlier before we went on camera about, I don't know whether glib is the right word, but there's so many things that I did find funny that aren't really funny. It's just the way you related them early on. Like this all comes together in a weekend. Your dad says, I'm picking up vets. There's very few regulations compared to today, obviously. But that you have a line where at some point you join the Brownies, and I love this, that you made a pan float out of empty medicine vials, but you didn't take the labels off. So the Brownies instructors are freaking out because they're going, what is going on in this child's home life? But you make a joke about that, and I found myself laughing, but it's really funny, but your delivery is.
Thank you. Well, what I hope to point out, and the humor in all of this absolutely comes from my father, who was a stand-up and a singer. But honestly, I hope that I point out foibles in other people and their unwillingness to expand their outlook on life. And I don't think that people are bigoted or prejudiced. I think they're very narrow-minded on what is normal and what is acceptable. And at that time I was probably 8 or 9, to have lithium and thorazine on labels. And I think this woman did exactly what you said, was like, oh, what's going on? And the only thing she could say was, we don't think candy is right for the Brownies, for this true. And
to put it mildly. And you are a good person, but it's remarkable what you go through, you and your brothers and your sisters. And what I also found very touching about this book is your father, who you just mentioned, retired show business. There's a lot of could-have-been-isms in this book in terms of him, that he doesn't get that break. Being a film critic, I noticed that you said he auditioned for the Al Jolson story. It goes to Larry Parks eventually, but how different his life might have been, or he doesn't get the break that a Joey Bishop gets as a comedian. So he finds himself going into this, but throughout the book, in the middle of alcoholism and depression, he also touches me as kind of like a Jimmy Stewart, It's a Wonderful Life, because he really, really wants to help these people. Unorthodox though it may be, he's bringing people in.
Yes.
And his family is suffering, but he's helping these people in the early days, as I said, 1968, when Reagan and Nixon were opening up the floodgates and these people were on the street.
Yeah, and I think what happened when you have a reluctant hero, and I wrote my father, and this should never be seen as an homage to a broken man. Television came along, so nobody was going to nightclubs. So nightclubs were closing left and right, and I found myself in a similar situation. About 7 years ago, I ruptured a vocal cord, and I make a great living, and I have for many decades, in voice acting, and I do voices for cartoons. And I couldn't perform for 6 months while my vocal cords healed, and I thought to myself, what if it's all taken away from me? What if I cannot do this anymore? Which is what my father, who was incredibly talented, must have gone through when he said, I can't make a living at this, I can't support my family. However, I'm going to add this. My mother, at the age of 95, so she had a wonderful life, passed away in 2021, and my daughter and I cleared out her apartment, and we found a box, and in one of the boxes was my dad's entire showbiz career, all these news clippings from 1940, 41, 42, and there were 12 separate letters from generals in the Army and the Armed Forces in the USO, which used to be a professional performers group, thanking my dad for his work with developmentally disabled children and vets that were shell-shocked, which is what they used to call PTSD. So I think he always had this yearning, and then the forces of nature just sort of fed him over into this is your rebirth, as it were.
Yeah, it's like it's going to direct you to where you need to be in this life. The other thing, and I've got one more thing I want to mention to you here, Candy. What really touched me too about this book is just your journey as well. There was one line, and I wrote it down because I wanted to make sure I got it right. This feeling of shame, embarrassment, heartbreak, and disappointment were always present in my childhood, but I remained loyal as a friend and a sister to the mentally ill. So this journey you go on, whereas an 8-year-old, and it's understandable, you're 8, to where you go by the introduction to this book, where you're helping somebody on the street as a grown woman. I really found that part touching as well, the journey you go on.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for acknowledging that. And it was a journey. I mean, the language we used to the residents, before anybody is offended, everybody was calling the mentally ill words that debase them. That's what everybody did. That's what you called your brother who was bothering you, or friends you didn't like. And I had to move past that, and I had to reconcile myself, because at times I was all they had. And I was their defender. And my father said, you are my kid. They are somebody else's kids, but you are my kids, and you are going to learn a different way to handle yourself throughout life. And thank God I did. Really, truly. Thank God I did.
It's quite a read. I'm holding it up right here. Surviving the Odd. This is a biography unlike anyone I've ever read. Candy Milo, thank you very much for joining us. And a big shout out to someone we both enjoy, Brenda Feldman, for putting this all together.
Yay, Brenda!
Yeah. Candy, thank you so much. Best of luck with your future.
My pleasure. Thank you.
This segment was sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
Well, if you are in Hollywood or work in the film community around the world, this is, of course, one of the trade Bibles, Variety magazine. Lita, why am I holding it?
Jim, you're holding that because Variety partnered with Whistler Film Festival this year to start a great little program called the Top 10 Canadians to Watch. These are some of the biggest talents that are up and coming in the industry.
That's right, and just behind us is the Whistler Conference Center. Lita and I had a chance to meet some of them last night on the red carpet. Here's a peek.
Good luck with all the competitions, and I know we'll see you next year again. Hopefully sooner, maybe.
Black woman who is navigating a predominantly white world, made all the more tolerable but also chaotic by the presence of her imaginary hype girl, Black and Mass.
Based on a lot of true accounts that our director and writer interacted with women in the shelter system.
A lot of hard work in this film.
Yes, it certainly has been lots of hard work from everybody. Our amazing director, Miss Casey.
Before this moment, I didn't know that a career in the arts was even kind of possible, you know? And I think it's changed me in that I can really...
And, you know, the constant auditioning, I don't know, it's a mystery. Life's an adventure. I'm just here for it. Yeah.
Well, we hope you're enjoying this edition of Our City Tonight. Hey, don't forget you can check out print versions of our show, including our column in Iconic Concierge magazine. The new edition you're looking at right now is available, and you can check it out online. Check out Our City Tonight in Iconic Concierge magazine. It's available now. Well, as we always like to do when we film here at Hydra, let's talk a little food, and I'm joined now by Chris. Chris, that wonderful date night, Valentine's, is just around the corner.
Just around the corner.
And as you guys always do, for special occasions, you have a whole bunch of selections, but you put out a platter that will give our viewers an idea of what you can offer during Valentine's.
For Valentine's, we like to do something very special, a very special meal for two. This is a Greek-style surf and turf platter. I've got in front of us a very Greek-style surf and turf. So spanakorizo, which is basically almost like a risotto.
Okay.
A little snow crab, a little spinach. On top of that, I've got some chili chorizo as ouzo and garlic prawns.
Right.
And then a full pound of chateaubriand. Some cauliflower scordalia, some beautiful roasted potatoes, vegetables, a beautiful romantic meal for two. You put a nice bottle of Bordeaux next to this, and I would call that a complete balanced meal.
Geez, I'm almost thinking you'd have more than two people eat into that as we're doing.
Possibly, but more than two is not romantic.
Well, not in this country. One thing I wanted to mention too is you talk about wine. You guys have a spectacular selection of wines. Last time you were on the show, we were just one floor below in the wine bar.
Yes.
What's going on down there? New year, of course, but a great new addition to Hydra.
Still, the great wine bar at Hydra, a fantastic destination for after work in the financial district. All sorts of beautiful wine tasting flights, great little tapas plates, all inspired by my same beautiful chef that puts together our Greek menu. Like I said, a fantastic little downtown destination for a glass of wine and a beautiful snack.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys decided to open that place up. It's a nice ground level place to stop, and one floor above is Hydra, where we are right now. Chris, thank you as always. By the way, as we always say, great hair.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I also wanted to mention we've just survived, an incredibly successful Christmas, New Year's, and we're just in the lull of January, February, and we've just gotten past our dine out.
Dine out just ended, of course.
But I wanted to mention what a great destination this is for group bookings. We are here in our cabana, which is our private dining area, a beautiful space for group bookings. And of course, we put together a beautiful menu and wine packages for groups of 12 to 40, or if you really want, you can buy a little restaurant.
Yeah, we actually are in this Cabana Lounge, which is actually, we've certainly had parties and dinners in this room before. It's a great kind of private spot just off the dining room. Chris is joining us here at Hydra with a great selection. Check out Hydra or the Wine Bar on Valentine's.
I hope you're enjoying the show. I'm back here in North Vancouver in the Shipyards District. Behind me, Seaside Hotel. Love this place. And Seaside Provisions, such a great place for happy hour and morning breakfast, as well as brunch and late night snacks as well. But I just want to be here to remind you that you can find us on all of our social media at Our City Tonight. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and also don't forget, all past episodes are available on our YouTube channel. So let's get right back to the show.
Closed captioning and other promotional considerations provided by Hamilton High Street Senior Residence, Richmond's newest senior living community.
Well, I'm back inside Seaside Provisions now, and amazing. Jim has shown up because I think he heard that there was going to be cocktails. So he raced down from Vancouver
And
to the North
yes,
Shore.
I know, the magic of television. It's just fantastic and great editing. Yes, it's great to be back here. If you have not seen this wonderful place, I've been here at Seaside Provisions in the Shipyard District of Lonsdale Quay and the Seaside Hotel. Come check it out.
Yes.
I'm glad you saved these cocktails. Wonderful. And some oysters.
I saved you some stuff. But before we dig in, I just want to say it is February, which is Valentine's month. And Valentine's is not all about romantic love. It is about friendship love, too.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Cheers to my
Thank you.
wonderful co-host and very good friend. Oh, look, he's digging into it. But we also want to say and send our love to Mark.
Oh, good to see you.
Our everything, our producer and cameraman and
Just call him the
editor.
talent of the
Yes,
show there.
So cheers to Mark, too.
Cheers.
We want to give a big shout out.
We're going to enjoy this this wonderful spread and some cocktails. Coming up in about 3 weeks or so, we're going to be back to check out the food, some of the great food you can get here. That'll be coming your way in early March on another edition of Our City Tonight. So, I'm Jim Gordon.
And I'm Lita Leafins.
Happy Valentine's week, month, whatever. We'll see you on the next edition of Our City Tonight.
Don't forget to check out past episodes and individual interviews, all on the Our City Tonight YouTube channel. While in Whistler, Our City Tonight stayed at the Blackcomb Lodge, serving guests in the heart of the village since 1980. The Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.